Quiet on set. Picture is up. All right, roll sound.
Rolling.
Roll cameras.
Cams rolling.
And 3, 2.
Hey everybody, what's going on? And we're finally here again. It's been about a week or two since we shot anything, so I'm glad to be back in the saddle. Got Mark Hogan on my left.
Howdy,
and
everybody.
co-host with me again. Got a special guest in here today. We have David Allen, and he is a Chief Medical NCO and a former Brigade Command Sergeant Major with the United States Army. Our topic for today is this Afghanistan thing that's been in the news and been going on. So we're going to try to disassemble it, reassemble it again so you guys can understand what's going on from an individual who's been boots on the ground. He's done multiple tours of duty, so he understands the terrain. In Afghanistan. He understands the terrain. He understands the people. He understands the geopolitics of this thing. And we're going to do everything we can. David, it's a pleasure to have you here, man. I appreciate you coming out. I know it was short notice, so thanks for rushing in and helping us out.
I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me.
So, David, you did several tours there. It added up to how many years again?
A little less than 5 years in country.
Wow, a little less than 5. That's
Not
a long
including
time.
Iraq, and you've done some other stuff.
I've done several tours also in Iraq.
Right.
Right. Can you describe a little bit for us how this began for you and what you're in control of and what you're in charge of, and so what your thoughts are at this point and what you're thinking?
Like we talked about before the camera, I don't speak for the United States Army. I only speak in my opinion and
Right.
my experiences.
And that's what we want. Yeah.
So, I was originally brought on as an individual, as a reservist at the time. Basic skill sets the Army was looking at, and my rank and my skill sets met the requirements, and they asked me to go help not only combat operations but also to help train the brand new newly formed Afghan army.
And this was back in 2001 when we first made our incursion into that country, correct?
I came into, it was a transition between combat operations and training.
Okay.
There's several levels of combat, 1 through 4. You have your initial phase, your combat phase, then your reconstruction phase, and then your final phase. There's many phases, but I came in as a transition to help the combat transition into the training of the indigenous forces.
Okay. So with everything that's been in the news, and I mean it's still a developing situation, so it's kind of hard to put your finger exactly on what's going on because we're getting so many conflicting reports. So I know that there was a plan to withdraw troops as far back as the Obama administration, correct?
It is.
And so
I believe, isn't it true that the first drawdown was supposed to happen in 2011 and that was moved to 2014?
Yeah, in fact, that for a soldier, Sailor, Air Force, Marines, you have combat and you have non-combat jobs. So what differentiates that is the awards, the pay, and stuff like that you get. So for Army, you'll get a combat patch on your right sleeve showing that, yes, you have been to combat. So around that time, they said, okay, well, the combat operations has stopped. You can still serve in Afghanistan and Iraq and wherever else, but we're going to transition from combat operations to sustainment and development and move on to retrograde.
Right. I think if I remember right, Rumsfeld announced that in about 04, 05, something like that. Yeah.
Right. So it's been an ongoing process is I think the point that I was trying to get to.
Yes.
And so all of a sudden, though, I guess all the troops have just disappeared, and that's where we're at. And, the Afghan people came to the realization that they're no longer being supported. Therefore, they threw in the towel, and we have the problem that we have now. I mean, is that kind of a correct assumption, or is it a little different or a little bit more complex than that?
Well, like we said, we've been retrograding for years. So in the last couple of years, we've had between 2,500 and 3,500 troops, a skeleton crew, just basically holding on the lights and
with
saying,
an Air Force.
Roger, with air support.
Yeah.
So
and air support's big out there because it's
absolutely.
mountainous. Yeah.
So it's a skeleton crew, 3,500 at the max, can hold off an entire Taliban for years. And then when we retrograde to almost nothing, then...
Right. But that's 3,500 American forces plus the Afghan forces, right?
Absolutely.
How large of an Afghan force or Afghan presence was there?
According to the administration, it's about 300,000.
Really? Wow. And how many Taliban?
75,000 is what the administration is saying that they were out there.
Wow.
I'm not
Yeah.
an intel analyst or anything. So
Right. Yeah. So that's you got to understand though, and Mark, you were telling me that Afghanistan's a little smaller than the
A little
state of
smaller than Texas.
a little smaller than
Yeah.
Texas. So it's
So
a big,
when-
big area.
Well, that'd be
Texas
like
is
saying,
huge.
yeah,
You know?
that'd be like Texas being taken over by a bunch of 5th century barbarians. You're in Houston. Everybody in El Paso, make your way to Hobby Airport, and you're going to be okay.
Yeah,
Makes sense to you?
it's crazy.
Okay,
In a hostile environment,
right.
where you're not being
Make it to the airport and show these guys, you are the great Satan, please let me through. We're asking permission to get into the wire.
Right. Yeah. So, and I guess I'm just trying to make a determination for myself where the ball got dropped at. It seems like he would want to get everybody out of the embassy and get everybody off the ground first, then remove the troops.
Leave
Because-
no man behind.
Right. So how did this get reversed, in your opinion? How did it get reversed, and what could have been done to prevent all this from going down? And as a second part of my question, was it just destiny for the Taliban to take control of Afghanistan, or, was that just going to happen and that's all there is to it? And if we knew that, what could we have done to prevent the problem that we're seeing now, especially at the airport and with evacuations? This thing sucks,
again, I don't speak for the Army.
Right.
In my opinion, in my experiences, one, you don't negotiate with a terrorist right off the bat.
And I thought that was the policy of the United States government.
So
know?
and it was under G.W. Bush,
Okay.
which the Obama administration, they kind of floundered on a little bit, but they head fast on don't negotiate with terrorists.
Okay.
So in my opinion, that the former administration probably not the best idea to negotiate, because you're legitimizing
Right.
a faction right off the bat. Anti-terrorism 101. Secondly, the former Trump administration had a plan for retrograde, and it was a if this then that
Right.
plan.
Everything was contingent on conditions on the ground.
It was all conditional.
So yeah, it was something like no attacks on Americans, and we'll draw down over a period of X number of weeks, months, years.
Right.
Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, and they did halt talks with the Taliban at least once or periodically. Yeah,
Right.
Say, hey, well, that's it.
Right. So how closely related is the Taliban and Al Qaeda? Because I know they're kind of interwoven to a certain degree, but how closely related are they?
My understanding is the Taliban owned basically Afghanistan and originally before 9/11, and they were the dominant faction
Right.
in Afghanistan, and the Al Qaeda was a sub faction. And there's a lot of sub faction terrorist groups,
Right.
Al
Popping up all the
Shabaab,
time.
yeah, everywhere.
Right.
So they allowed a sub faction to come in and do some training, and they supported them through other countries and other means as well.
They had the common enemy.
Yeah. Wow. So the Taliban their claim now is that they're going to be, they're going to set up a government. I think they're going to go back to, is it Sharia law?
It is.
Yeah. And that's just a fundamentalist view of the Quran law, I guess. So you steal something, you lose a hand.
It is strict
Jamaican
Islam
hundreds,
is
yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, it's awful. Especially where women are concerned, because now we're back to burying chicks in the dirt and throwing rocks at them, right? So, and that was no longer the case in Afghanistan prior to this. Am I correct? Were there was another legal institution there before this?
Well, the Afghani government was not Sharia law, and
Right.
I don't know every detail about it, but I think they were modeled after Western democracy.
But it just wasn't as barbaric, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe you can speak better than that than we
Yeah.
can.
Well, in my experience, part of my job was a fund manager, if you will. So I did special projects for the community, building bridges, rebuilding schools. Orphanages were a huge thing because so much combat, so much.
Created a lot of orphans.
Yeah,
Just
there was a
death,
lot
yeah.
of orphans.
Oh, I bet.
So we did a lot of humanitarian efforts and stuff. And that's all the NATO the forces that were with us. So everybody put their hands in for that. So that being said, as in my opinion, as bad as the execution of this mission is currently, I still have to say, 20 years, girls, for example, 20 years, they have tasted a freedom. They have been a whole lot less afraid to go outside. They've got an education. They've been able to speak semi-freely. They've been holding government offices. They've been able to drive vehicles.
Right.
Yeah, that's going to go away now.
The
for sure. Yeah.
the head covering from top to bottom is called a burqa.
Right.
So before the Taliban Afghanistan, it was a Western state. If you look at any kind of pictures in 1955, it was a vacation spot
Right.
for the world. You would think it'd be
Wow.
Western.
Really? And that was before the Russian intervention.
It
right?
was.
Wow.
It was.
So, wow, that's unusual. So, let's say it's all said and done. We're 9 months from now, and we've gotten everybody out, hopefully. What's left? What's left for Afghanistan, I wonder? Will it just be another haven for terrorist organizations to operate, trade arms, and do what they need to do? Or are we back somehow in some form with a reasonable expectation of being able to control something there?
Doing what I do in the military, especially in the past, Afghanistan is in a unique location.
Yeah, geographically, it's
interesting.
weird. Yeah, it really is.
So, in my opinion, giving up ground was probably not the smartest thing, especially if you're holding it down with 25 to 3,500 troops.
Yeah.
Where we got people in Afghanistan. I
Yeah, see, and I don't understand
Germany,
that because
Korea.
2,500 troops is almost zero cost for a country like this.
Yeah.
Just it's low cost.
So what it enabled us is it gave us not only security for the area in Afghanistan itself, but Pakistan, India, Iran, but it also gave us a launching point, a platform for any kind of future operations,
Right.
to stabilize the entire region. So giving up ground that we've already owned and are able to easily maintain is kind of confusing to me.
Right. And not propping up the Afghani government that we helped build and support for all those many years. Just kind of turn the
Yeah, and
lights out.
it just makes me wonder what this administration's thinking.
I'll tell you what I think they were thinking. I think they were thinking, we yank everybody out of there, turn out the lights, we're done. September 11th, we have a big party for ourselves with a sympathetic media patting on ourselves on the back, saying we ended the war, nobody else could do it.
And well, if that was their thought, then they don't think very far ahead, because this has turned out to be a nightmare for the Biden administration.
It's
And
a
it's not
nightmare
going
for the
away.
United States of America.
Well,
And
sure
I'll
it is.
say one
I
thing.
agree with that, but
Anybody that wants to make this a political thing, my side against your side, Trump against Biden, this is not political. This is not D, R's, or I's. This is the United States of America. And why are we first off in a position for an emergency evacuation out of a hostile country that we created this problem? But why are we not locking things down, going in there, kicking ass, and getting our people out of there right now? And I have got to
see,
hope.
that's what makes me.
I've got
that's
to
what makes
hope
me wonder.
that these generals around this administration are not. They better be pounding the table. Let us in there to do our job. If nothing else, get our American citizens out of that hellhole country.
I would think there's a few. I mean, at least I would hope there's.
And I
a
hope
few.
they listen to
Because
them.
if we don't still have that same angst for what's right and for freedom,
It's bad
then we're
enough
done.
what we've done to the
Then we're
Afghanis,
done.
but we cannot have a situation where Americans are paraded out and killed, or shown up
Yeah,
as
and it hasn't
hostages.
started yet, but I think it's we're not far from it. I'm really surprised they've let planes fly off, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
And because I know they've got a bunch of stingers. Am I
Yeah, when
right?
the-
Haven't they had stingers for years?
They had for years.
Yeah. So I mean,
the ones that are taking off now are throwing chaff behind them.
really.
Yeah, and you know what that is.
Yeah.
Well, it was common because the Kia International Hamid Karzai Airport is basically in the donut hole of mountains. So you have to go over the mountain into the donut hole.
Okay.
So your final approach is very close to the mountains.
Really.
Right.
So
Wow.
small arms attack and surface to air is very easy.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a whole lot at all.
And they're
And I guess
corkscrewing
it's
in
the s-
there, and
I
everybody's
guess
throwing up
it's the
on the
same.
way in.
Yeah, I guess it's the same coming out or flying out.
Absolutely.
Wow, tough spot. Tough spot. You know, and it's interesting because with everything else that's been going on with COVID and all that other stuff, I didn't see this. I missed it somehow. I didn't see this coming until it was too late, until it already happened. And that kind of bothers me a little bit too, that it wasn't more prevalent in our media. You know, it should have been.
Right.
You know, it should have been all along. But you know, back in I think it was, I was doing some research, and I believe it was right around 2001, right when before we got hit, before 9/11. You know, the United States government had kind of passed off what's going on in Afghanistan and said, they'll just form to be another Saudi Arabia. Let's not even worry about it. And the Taliban was already doing their deal, and there was a lot of murder and death and everything else going on over there. And I don't know why we didn't pick up on it then. It just seems like, and I'd hate to think that this has been the fault of the CIA, for instance. It just seems like either the intelligence wasn't there, or they didn't get their point across, or somebody didn't listen. And it seems like that same thing has come back around again, because intelligence should have known, hey, these guys, they're going to throw down their weapons, and you know, the Taliban's just going to roll through here in just a matter of short weeks.
There were a lot of
They'll be
warnings.
done. There had to have been.
There were a lot of warnings, documented pleas for help from diplomats on the ground, from Afghanis in their government, especially in June and July, from what I understand, to this administration. Now, whether it got to the right people, I don't know, but the Secretary of State knew about it, Blinken, and what he did with it, I don't know.
Yeah, I just don't understand how it got passed over, man.
This
I
is
really don't.
unacceptable, dude.
It really is. So, give me an idea of you know, because I mean, you've dealt with the Taliban a lot. Give me an idea of what these guys are thinking at this point. I mean, they've got to be on top of the world. They think they've won, you know. So, I mean, what do you think their next move is?
Well, like I said, I'm not an intel guy, but
Right.
culturally, if you understand the culture, one of the things as a former trainer for the Afghan army, one of the things that our higher ups, our leaders kept saying is, look, you train them the best you can, but this is their country. They have to execute. They have to buy in. They have to have buy-in. They have to have, you know, the dog in the fight.
Right.
So culturally, if you take away aspects of that dog in the fight, you know, their pay, their security, their family security, culture is everything.
Right.
So they're still tribal. They still are Islam. So you have to really understand the culture to understand where the outcome may be. And I think that's kind of where we missed the boat. We're really good at ass kicking. We really are.
Sure.
Nation building, in my opinion, you know, that's not our really forte. That being said, your question earlier, where do I think that they're going to go from here? I can pray that factions that were westernized factions, like the guys that I trained, the first Kandak, that have buy-in for their national security and national one region, one Afghanistan fight instead of tribal. Put that all aside for culture, and I would pray and I would hope that these guys would consolidate and go back into the fight and figure out somewhere between the Taliban and somewhere in between the citizens
Mhm.
and come up with an Afghanistan that can survive and move
Right.
forward.
But do you think the Afghan people are just tired? I mean, they've been fighting since what, the 50s? You know, I mean,
50s.
you know,
Like
well, at least
the 550s?
in this particular situation.
okay.
You know,
Not only here, but everywhere I've been, Afghanistan, Iraq, Africa, South America, everywhere that I've been, people are the same. They want to have security. They want to have purpose.
Mhm.
They want to be able to have some type of freedom to execute their prayers, their job,
yeah,
their
same
family.
thing we want here.
Everybody in the world is the exact same. So culturally, how do we get there? So
Yeah,
we all want to have the same goal in life,
right,
to live, and the freer the better. But
right. But I just wonder if the Afghan people still have the fight in them, or if they just assume go to Pakistan or Iran or, you know,
they're
one
sturdy.
direction or the
I
other.
tell you, they're a sturdy people.
Mountain people usually are. You know?
They've been through the ringer for 50 years.
Yeah.
So they're very sturdy. I don't think they're getting the accolades that they should on TV. You know, oh, they dropped their weapons and they ran. Well,
Right.
you know, if they hadn't been fed or watered in days or weeks or months, and they don't have the ammunition, we gave it all to them and helped them to train, but culturally and tactically, probably they didn't have what they needed at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And it's all about timing. Same
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah, they relied
What were
upon
they?
us
What
for
were
that.
they shown? Suddenly, the United States isn't there. No ceremony, no nothing. Not even a heads up to some of the Afghani security forces.
Mhm.
The way they, and I've read several different reports on this. The way we let go of Bagram Air Force Base. At midnight, we turned the lights out. It was a few hours later. The Afghani government is saying, "Where'd you guys go?" "Oh, we're gone now." They left behind all kind of stuff. I don't know how many planes and equipment, but I know a lot of civilian vehicles. Like, we're talking hundreds of things. Everything from bottled water to MREs. It's all in the hand of the Taliban. You've seen the pictures on TV with the Taliban guys running around trying to figure out how to work their brand new M4s,
Yeah.
U.S. weapons, with their U.S. armor and the U.S. night vision helmets. Why this happened like that, I have no explanation. They could.
Yeah,
they had
so
a hell of an
it's
opportunity
perplexing,
here.
you know?
A hell of an opportunity to do it right and have a great party over the whole thing. Why they screwed it up like this, I have no idea. And empowered the enemy. What a great propaganda for the Taliban. You know,
I know.
who are, by the way, still on Twitter.
Yeah.
Well, to this day, if you ask anybody in both a Mujahideen or a Taliban member, they said we kicked the Russians' ass.
Yeah, of course.
Right. Well,
that was
yeah.
40, 50 years ago.
Exactly. The United States just the last one on the list. Look what we did to them. You
Yep,
better listen to us.
Well,
Put that burqa on.
Even the congressman in the news said, that's something that military members have heard for years. That when they came out, said, you may have a watch and you know what time it is, but we have the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a cultural people. They just
They
waited us
operate
out.
on generations and eons.
Yeah. It's crazy. Okay, so the main thing that's been in the news is this airport. And I guess you've been to that airport,
Absolutely.
so you're familiar with what's going on around there. So now that they're saying that people are being choppered in and out because that's kind of the only way to get them beyond the checkpoints. Can you give us an idea of how things are set up from a bird's eye view, I guess, and a little bit better explanation of what American citizens and also the Afghans who are wanting to leave are kind of going through right now, and how long this evacuation process could even take? Because it seems like it could take quite a while.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Kabul International Airport is central in Kabul.
Okay.
And
Kabul's kind of north.
No,
in
it's right in the
Afghanistan.
center.
Is
It's
it
right in the center.
Really?
So
Bullseye state. Okay,
yeah,
Cool.
it's pretty much centered. So it's kind of European, the way the city is laid out. It's got turnstiles and
Okay.
and traffic circles all over your place. You get dizzy just driving around. The embassy is very close, probably with the traffic circles and stuff, half mile,
Well,
mile
that
at the
is
most.
close.
It's
Yeah,
close.
That's real close.
Threats come and go. When I was there, we flew most of the time. Even that short amount of distance, you just hop the helicopter. Staying off the road is the safest bet. So for the embassy, when they helicoptered to the airport and then shut the embassy down, short hop. So the many years, the airport has been there, and there's two sides of it. There's a civilian side, and then there's a military side.
Okay.
So the civilian side, there, people come and going, contractors, different countries are sending contractors in
Right.
from everywhere, and also the indigenous Afghans coming and visiting family or whatever. And then there's the military side. So there's only a few entrances. So the Taliban controls pretty much the entire civilian side of it.
Okay.
The opposite side, which is the military side, is the ones that you'll see on TV is NATO forces are kind of holding the peace there.
Okay.
So
So are those two sides, individual sides, separated by a wall or anything?
nope.
No, they're open.
Yeah, it's a little fence.
Wow.
When I was there, it's basically like a little shack in the middle. You can get a snack or something, and then you go outside and there's a fence there.
So and it sounds like there's an overwhelming Taliban force there as far as numbers for them versus us. So why are they? I don't even understand why they're allowing people to leave at this point, especially being now they've started hunting. So I know they're hunting certain individuals for whatever reason they've got. So I mean, this whole landscape is it's unusual,
And it's
as
getting
far
worse
as-
by the
yeah,
hour.
as far as war goes. It's such an unusual thing to see, because you would think planes wouldn't be leaving with people. They wouldn't be allowing anybody to split.
Well, my opinion is
So-
they're trying to be on their best behavior, the Taliban is, which you can take that with a grain of salt. Their best behavior is not very nice. They know the world is watching.
And they wanna
want to be
join the
considered
global community.
They
Yeah,
want to be
yeah.
considered legitimate.
Right.
So they're not going to be mowing down groups of people until we leave completely. I'm afraid that's going to happen.
Do you agree with that? You think so?
I can't really speak for the Taliban, but that would be pretty close to my assessment as well.
Wow.
They've been talking with this administration, saying, "Hey, look, y'all play nice. Let our people who want to leave, and we'll let you do your thing."
It just kills me that we're sitting here asking permission from the Taliban for safe passage.
Well, it's not a happy thing, that's for damn sure. I mean, we shouldn't be in this position after 20 years. My problem is 20 years. You got 20 years of guys coming home that have been injured in battle.
Right.
You got 20 years of guys coming back with PTSD. You got 20 years of guys that have committed suicide. You got 20 years of families that have lost a member completely.
Right.
And this is only on our side, not to mention the millions of Afghan people who have died in this conflict.
Of course, and
So,
NATO too.
Just to decide one day, I don't want to play anymore.
to sneak out in
What
the
the
middle of the damn night. Yeah. They had an opportunity to hold a lot of ceremonies. Here we are handing over the key to your own country, and way to go, rah rah rah, wave the flag, the Afghani flag, and have a big deal about it, and still some pride in these people. Say goodbye, and if you need anything, our Air Force base is right here. We got a little skeleton crew. We're going to leave right here.
Right.
But no.
To listen to the news, parts that you won't hear is 2,600 plus U.S. lives has been
Right.
lost in 20 years. 58,000 plus Afghans have lost their life fighting for their own country.
I read that same thing.
I
That's crazy.
served side by side with these guys, and I would do it again today and tomorrow. My bags are packed, and I can speak for myself and a lot of other veterans that feel the same way.
Yeah.
That we would go back today to help out the Afghans and to our NATO partners.
Right.
And we should, if not, I mean, because our original purpose, at least what I thought our original purpose was to, put a dent in terrorist organizations and help the Afghan people and just stabilize that region, at least in that location. I don't know if we ever really made it there or not. It seems like we did for a certain period of time. So, I'm just confused. Why turn around and walk away from that shit? That doesn't make any sense.
Because people want to be the one to end the war, rightfully so. I haven't found anybody yet that said we needed to stay there in force.
And I normally don't talk like this in this podcast, but I'll tell you this: I never turned the TV on in the morning, but on the day September 11th, 2001, I just gotten out of the shower, and I decided I was going to watch a little bit of the news and plus I was a Peter Jennings freak. I like the dude. I thought he was the James Bond of the news, So I turned TV on, and within minutes, I saw this second plane hit. And I was just kind of comprehending what was going on with the first. I was like, wow, man, that's bad. Who would be a dumbass enough to hit a building?
That was my epiphany, too.
Yeah. So then the second plane hits, and my first thought was, we are at war, and there will never be a time in my life when we're not. Because of the way that globally everything is set up. It's just not going to be a time. We'll always have a conflict somewhere.
We're fighting
who
an
gives a fuck
ideology now.
Who gives a fuck about whether we leave Afghanistan or we leave Iraq or we leave Iran or wherever the hell we've got troops stationed at? We're still going to have a conflict somewhere else in the world. So we're not winning anything by leaving Afghanistan at all. In no way, shape, or form can this be considered a win.
No.
So what the hell?
So
after everything that went on between the Trump administration and all this other shit, that's how hard things have been on in this country in the past 8 years. It makes me wonder if we're still even operational as a fucking country, or if we're just done and we're playing out the end game. Because it almost seems that way to me. It's like so much confusion. We're just done and we're playing out the end game.
Well.
So you'll hear on the news, of course I'm biased this way, but the industrial military complex is, they want the war, they want the war, they want the war. Hey, let's face it, it's dollars and cents. Everybody's got their hand in everybody's
pocket. It always boils down to the dollar. Yeah.
So that being said, me as a service member, I'm bound by the Constitution to fight all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Right.
I would rather fight them on their turf than mine.
Yeah.
So that being said, did we need to have a 20-year war? It's not my call, but I would personally, if I would rather fight it on their turf than mine. Keep the bad guys at bay.
Right.
Show that we are a real and relevant force. You could argue the point that we as military members in the military complex want to keep the wars going, keep those dollars and cents rolling, give us something to do, and that kind of stuff. You could argue that point very easily.
It's a weak point because it's not like there's not conflict in the world. If we didn't have enemies in the world, we'd have no reason to go and start, and we haven't started any of these wars anyway. So I see your point, but at the same time, you got to be realistic and understand that there are people who hate us.
Absolutely, and that was my second point.
As soon as you leave the borders of the United States, you've kind of entered that area, I think.
If you're watching
Canada, back to Canada.
Back to Canada.
Well, my second point is this side is like we should have been there in the first place. That's the industrial military complex keeping it going, dollars and cents.
War for oil.
War for oil. You can easily argue that.
Sure.
The other side is how easy it is for you to be watching on your plasma TV with your feet up, air conditioned, blowing cold, petting your 2.5 kids.
That's it.
And armchair quarterback the whole world when you don't know a damn thing what you're talking about.
Yeah.
When my people are out there sweating, dying, and just trying to give especially these girls a 20-year opportunity to see some type of faith and some type of quality of life.
Respect
Yeah.
as a human being, because right now they've been reverted back to like a dog. Maybe your favorite dog.
Right. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a
Well,
humanitarian
if you got a good
crisis
hunting
there.
dog, it's
Yeah.
worth more than women are
Yeah.
in the Middle East, unfortunately. But again, it's not our culture.
Right.
If that's their culture and that's how they want to be,
Well,
then
it's like you said, they got a taste of it.
they got a taste.
Hopefully they can round up, find some weapons, for Christ's sake, and do something. And this going to be, are they going to look to France, Holland to help them? They're going to look to the
Holland?
United States.
Oh, Holland has a slingshot.
I know, and you know about Holland
Yeah, I do.
because you're Hollandish,
Dutch.
also known as Dutch.
That's it.
But they're going to look to the United States for help. Is this going
Right.
to be? Are we going to have to ramp into this all over again? I don't know. That's your question about the future.
Yeah, I don't
You
know.
know, we're going to help them a little, put a few boots on the ground just to help them, show them how again. A little bit of money, a few billion. You're talking. And ramp that up to another. We'll put 5,000 troops here and get an air presence back in the country. You know how that works.
Yeah.
Did the same thing in Vietnam. Did the same thing in 2001 too.
Right.
I just hate to be back to square damn one on this whole deal. How would you like to have a son or a daughter either killed or had their limbs blown off or scars on the inside of their head and see what's going on right now? I mean, back to square damn one.
I know.
I want to say thank you to all the vets out there, and especially you and people like you that are putting the word out. It wasn't a waste of time. We went in there and we kicked ass. That's what we do. We killed the bad guys, including Osama bin Laden. We took away their network. We kept this country relatively safe for 20 years.
Sure.
That can't be taken away.
Right.
You showed
yeah.
the Afghani people how freedom works, at least to a certain degree. I mean, girls can go to school again. That's huge.
An ending right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't for nothing, people. It wasn't for nothing.
And for me, that's how me personally, David, ended up in this seat today. Is when the whole thing went down a few days ago. Me as a 30-plus year veteran of multiple actions, combat actions, I felt hurt, disappointed, frustrated, very much in pain. Which I sought out my friend for some comfort, and then my senior rank came out and said, okay, look, if I feel that and I'm kind of war hardened, how do these guys, like you were talking about, comes back? Because my first thought was, this was all for nothing. My friends, my family, they bled, they died. Even on the smallest part, if you were a contractor, you're still away from your friends and family.
Right.
When I left the first time in Afghanistan and I came back, my kids went 2 grades. So that's time you can't get back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing is, and a lot of people don't understand this. It's like you said, 90% of the population has never actually seen war. We sit and watch it on TV, but it's not the same. When you've seen guys bleed and you've heard the sound of war and you've smelled it,
I can only imagine.
it's a different, so I mean, I can understand regular citizens being pissed off about this thing. I can really understand veterans and how they feel.
Right.
I mean, it's just, it's,
You're right. It's been the same in all wars.
Well,
In World War
and-
One, they called it shell shock, and then it became battle fatigue, and then it was
PTSD.
PTSD. It's all the same condition.
right.
The going thing I've always heard is there's 22 suicides every day, every single day, weekends included,
Yeah.
of veterans,
Right.
and it had been whittled down to about 20. I don't know if that's true or not. It's too damn many, way too many.
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to increase that rate or lower that rate?
My original message, which puts me in this chair today, was to seek comfort with my friend, a fellow veteran, and to put out a message as a senior leader to say, look, if I feel like this after 30 plus years and multiple tours, then I know those guys that only had 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, right out of the gate, very immature in their careers and their military service, who are coming back mind or body injured.
Right.
So my message to them, where as you said earlier, you served honorably. Number one, you answered the call when the government asked you to come and serve. You
Amen.
answered that call.
Mm-hmm.
You served honorably, no matter if you were filling up gas cans or you were on the front line fighting the Taliban with a bayonet. Whatever your service is, it was honorable. And secondly, you're not alone. Lastly, find a friend. If you need a friend, call me. Call Jack. But I know that I felt so frustrated and depressed just in that
Sure.
small amount of time
Yeah.
that my first thought, and I had to fight it back as a senior leader, saying, we just turned our back on the whole world, and for what? So my message was to put out that, hey, look, you're not alone. You served honorably, and don't commit suicide.
Right.
It was an anti-suicide message. Call somebody, find a friend, phone a friend. In fact, we
Right.
even provided the VA crisis hotline number on our little video that we did originally.
Where can we find that video?
It was on Facebook.
Oh,
My friend, he owns a gun shop, and
We'll see if we can find. Yeah, I should be able
Yeah.
to find that
Yeah,
video.
let's find that.
We'll include it. In the
Camp
end
Hope
of this.
is another great organization.
Absolutely. Sam Askins, he's one of the counselors over there, one of my former soldiers, just fantastic organization. Look into Camp Hope. They provide counseling services, homelessness. They have job placement centers. I mean, it's absolute. It's just right there north of by the dog track, actually, in Houston.
Oh, okay.
Fantastic organization for us locally.
Great.
But the veterans, we're fighting the war from within too.
Right.
Sure. Yeah, it doesn't end for you
The
guys.
support
It
is
doesn't-
there. Just got to
you know,
reach
you
out
can-
for it.
Yeah,
You can get pulled
absolutely.
out. You can come home, but I don't think it ends for you. I don't think it would for me. I've considered it quite a lot. I don't think it would end for me. I don't see how it's something you can ever kind of shake.
Yeah.
It's got to be with you all the
Well,
time.
I'm a pretty big history buff, and World War II is my big thing to study and everything. And like we say, it's the same. It's the same human feelings in war, and then you carry those same feelings as you do in any generation.
Right.
Whether you hit the beach in Omaha or you hit the mountains of Kandahar, it's all the same human heart. And these are all kids, man, generally.
Yeah. I mean,
19,
it's
20
crazy.
years old.
And
So-
on that, it's something who it also defines us as well as veterans. I wouldn't be who I am without those experiences.
Right.
And I wouldn't come back and say, you know what, I've got 30 plus years in the Army, but let's not have a war.
Yeah.
I'm a veteran, and like I said, I got over 30 years of service, and I can only promote positively the service. For your family, it's a good living, lots of benefits, a chance to serve your country, something greater than yourself to
Right.
serve. But I pray for no war, ever.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But being there and having those experiences, I can come back and say, I've seen things that you don't want to see.
Exactly.
And I'm gonna bear the burden and hold the blanket over your eyes,
Mm-hmm. The veterans,
so you don't have to suffer the same fate that we have.
The
But it
veteran-
defines us, and that's what we do. We prostrate ourselves to our country to ensure that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness can happen,
Mhm.
Yeah. Exactly.
So much
and
of
we do
it's
it willingly.
taken for granted too.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So.
So let me ask you this, and I know that in the next several weeks, months, probably years, there's going to be a whole lot of finger pointing. It'll be the administration screw ups against the administration screw ups, and so as a citizen, not as a military man, but as a citizen, what would you like to see really happen? And I know Congress they have a great time spending a hell of a lot of money getting a whole lot of nothing done. They have all these inquisitions and they ask a lot of questions. At the end of it, they write a big report. It's done, But I think more needs to happen. More needs to be examined, because now, we're going back 20 years. So as a citizen, as a taxpayer, guy on the street. You know what's going on, but what would you like to see happen as far as getting to the bottom of what went wrong here? I mean, what do you think?
As a citizen, it's one of those things. If you don't vote, then you have no right to argue and to bitch about the situation.
Right.
So fundamentally, we on the right, we believe in individual rights and stuff. So fix yourself first, and then fix your community. Whereas the left is like, we're going to fix the community and kind of go one way or the other.
Jordan Peterson.
Yeah. As a citizen, I even have thought about, hey, look, I'm a part-time military serviceman, and if I want my voice really to be heard and I want to make an actual impact on the future, run for an office. And you see the Dan Crenshaws out there. You see those guys, former Navy SEAL, Harvard graduate, good, smart guy.
If you can't beat them, join them.
Absolutely.
That's true all the way from your local school boards on up, man.
Absolutely.
Mayorships.
So you can have positive impact on the direction of that ship. I mean, a Navy destroyer don't turn 90 degrees. It takes a while to make a turn, but it's baby steps. Even the mightiest oak can be chopped down one stroke at a time.
Right.
Yeah.
So as a citizen, what I would like to see is, I'm a big fan of Charlie Kirk on some of the podcasts, and one of his things is, government is inefficient, and it could be done a lot better.
People have a fundamental misunderstanding of the whole concept. A lot of people do. That the Bill of Rights is what the government said we can do. Every one of those Bill of Rights is restrictive of the government powers. Every one of them.
Absolutely. So, personally, like I said, to make an impact, go to those meetings, vote. Even more so, run for some type of office to make an impact. But definitely get involved.
I've always felt that way. I mean, even as far as just your little community.
Yeah.
Just go to your city council meetings.
Yeah. Well, you gave it a shot.
Here's the thing, though.
Proud of you for that.
You know what's funny? Go to a city council meeting around here and sit in the audience, and you yourself will more than likely be the audience.
Oh, I know.
Nobody goes to the fucking city council.
I had a little experience with that in Brookshire, Texas, tiny little town. I know.
Yeah, you fart in Brookshire. Everybody there.
It's in the paper and everything. Yeah, I know. Yeah. But I had to go get some permits for a food truck, and I was the only one there.
Yeah.
I think there was one other person there who was bitching about a dog barking, and they hadn't listened to their letter, so they showed up to tell them about it.
Yeah.
But it was a joke.
But you have to be involved in your community, and it's like you said, fix yourself first, make sure you're good, you're not living in a glass house, then arm yourself, go out and do what you can for your community and do what you can for society.
Right.
And we'll all make this a better place, but it's going to take time, Now, as a citizen, I just want to say, what I'd like to see done on our side is I'd like there to be a full inquisition. But what I want that's different than all the other ones is I want the truth to come out. The actual truth, not the bullshit truth, not the
partisan bullshit.
Not the icing truth, not the partisan bullshit, but the actual truth. Who dropped the ball? Where did it get dropped? Did somebody just make a bad decision? What the hell happened? How do we end up where we are? Because we cannot do this again.
What I'm afraid of is going to turn into Republicans versus Democrats, and everybody trying to cover their ass, and nothing happens. A couple of years of investigations, no report comes out. We're already on to the next damn emergency.
And it's going to further divide us, and that's another big problem that we have in this country is the polarization. It's bad.
Yeah.
One thing
it's
that
not helping anybody.
As a military leader, everything is metrics based.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is metrics based. Whether your dental exam or your flu shot or whatever it is, it's metrics based.
Right.
What I continually have to remind my leaders, especially my peers and sometimes my subordinates, is every metric is a person.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Right. They're shoveling all these numbers around. Those are human beings.
Those are human beings. So we really got to be careful about how we just compartmentalize our metrics.
Right.
And all this finger pointing stuff, because while we're fist fighting and trying to make blame, people are suffering.
Yeah. So how long do you think this is going to take us to get everybody out of Afghanistan? Any ideas at all? I mean, you know how many? Because I don't even know how many individuals are there that want to get out.
I haven't heard a firm number on that yet.
Yeah.
I've heard 10,000 to 45,000.
Son of a bitch.
Americans.
And at the rate we're pulling people out, you're talking.
We're
Wow.
not pulling people out. They're coming to us if they can make it.
Right, but I mean, at the rate the planes are leaving, I think they're only moving like 2,500 people a
We
day.
see how bad it
something
is
like
now. Our deadline is August 31st. That's the last report I've heard. On September 1st, it's just up to the Taliban what happens, isn't it? Everything is up to the bad guys.
that. Man,
Are they going to extend that? You hear conflicting reports. Oh, just come to the airport. Everybody's telling us they're letting them right through, and everything on the ground is saying otherwise. I don't know, man.
And
Well,
I don't speak for the military on this question, so I can't say what amount of time. As a military person, I would say trust in the system, and trust that the right thing is going to be done, and trust that the American citizens and NATO and allied forces are going to be taken care of and not forgotten. That's what I have to say and trust.
yeah.
So, and
That's-
if it,
that's
for
what
me
I'm
personally, if
for
it takes
also.
1 day or if it takes 2 years,
Yeah,
no man left
Right.
behind.
right.
And I think I could speak for most of the veterans and say, we don't leave our brothers and sisters behind.
Yeah,
Exactly.
for sure.
Put the politics aside. We spend more on lunch in the government than we do keeping people armed in Afghanistan for the last couple of years, probably. So,
Yeah, I'm sure.
So a minimal amount of cost to do the right thing.
So let me ask you this, average American, what don't we know about the Afghan people or the Taliban? Any Taliban tidbits? Like the guys like to eat dog burgers or something like that? I mean, is there any just unusual fact that most Americans wouldn't know?
Well, like we talked about before the show actually started, culturally and personally, my experience is if you can understand the culture, the war is halfway won.
Sure. Yeah.
So culturally, when I had met with some kind of shady characters, again, like we talked about before, we went in there and the bad guy said, "Welcome to my house. Let's sit down. Let's drink some chai. Let's have a little snack. Let's talk. How's your family? How's my family? The pleasantries." And then after the conversation, he said, "Well, when you leave the door, we may or may not be friends." So culturally, they surprisingly that it's not all about combat business. Everything is kind of taken slow and it's kind of funny the way we pulled out because the fighting season. I don't know if you've heard that on the
I've
news.
heard that term.
The weather's pretty rough in Afghanistan, so
Oh, I bet.
there's a fighting season. So they'll go back to their house, and it reminds me of the hillbillies. They're like, all right, well, it's Tuesday on the third month, and I got to shoot 3 bullets today. And they open the front door, and hey, Bob, pow, pow, pow. Okay, well, I done my due for this month.
McCoys are done.
Yeah.
Go to Hatfields.
So I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Well, let
not
me
funny,
ask
but
you something that
ironic.
you may or may not be able to answer, and that's understandable. You are the supreme commander of Afghanistan operations. It's time to pull out. How do you do it?
Wow, that's a pretty good question. There's a lot of opinions, and you know what they're like.
Yeah.
As somebody who's served a lot on the ground, probably understanding the culture right off the bat, and the best way would be to, like anything else in life, try to leave it better than you found it. For one.
Yeah.
And backwards plan on how to do that, and that includes so much. I don't know if we have that much time, but how do we leave their culture intact? How do we leave their economy intact? How do we leave their able to self-sustain in the world intact? Dignity, respect. How do we leave all that? So you have to get the big picture and then backwards plan all the way down, kind of like a
Right.
parachute, a reverse parachute, until you say, okay, until we can meet these metrics, then we need to continue to do what we need to do.
Until we have a firm plan
Right.
with contingencies. I was kind of more talking about the nuts and bolts of getting out of there and leaving it to the Afghans. I bet you it's not pulling the plug on the airport and disappearing and people going, are they gone? With Americans in there and Afghanis that we have promised that we got their back if they help us. I bet it'd be a little different than that.
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
I mean, it's a there's no simple answer for a complex question.
Exactly, and I understand that too, yeah.
And like I said, I don't speak for the entire military. I speak for what I saw from what we say is from my foxhole, my point of view. Like I said, it's an armchair quarterback, and even I could do that.
Right.
Because
Right.
I only see a small piece during my tenure there, and during my tenure in the Army. There's a lot of things going on behind the scenes that we don't see,
Right.
no matter what level you're at, and I'd say even all the way up to the president.
I would hope that there are. I'm starting to doubt it now. So, yeah, and at least if there's things going on behind the scenes, they're not constructive anymore. So, I mean, it's odd.
You might want to back off your mic a little
Just
bit or
That's
move it
really
one way or another.
Um,
I got so passionate, I'm heavy
Yeah.
breathing now.
Me too.
and I was getting to something, and I
I'm
don't-
sorry I interrupted
That's okay.
you.
Don't quite recall what it was, but so I always was under the assumption that Afghanistan was the hotbed, so to speak, of most terrorist organizations in the world. That's where they went to do their training. That's where they got together. It's, it seems like that's where everything was happening at. Do you think that's where it is? And if not, where else should we be looking in the world to be concerned about
Pakistan.
future terrorists? Their neighbors. That's
Oh,
awesome.
sorry. Are we talking to him?
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is one of those off-limit questions that I really can't answer, but I will
Okay.
answer it like this. At my job at all levels, whether it be in D.C. or elsewhere, if you ever watch the series Men in Black,
Yep.
that is our world. There is something that's going to end the world tomorrow. And it could be in Africa, it could be in North Korea, it could be in Taiwan, it could be in China. You name a place, even places you haven't even heard of as a regular civilian.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So to me, it's
That's
like Men
great
in Black.
news, yeah.
There's so much stuff going on, and so many factions. Secret Service, CIA, FBI, State Department.
Oh, yeah.
All branches of the military.
And then all the unknowns.
Yeah, we're all cogs working for the same team, but sometimes we're isolated and doing our own thing. So, I'm like I said, I'm not a military analyst. I'm not at liberty to even give my opinion on where may be the next hot spot, because they're everywhere, just
Yeah.
like Men in Black. I mean, you just never know.
Wow.
I mean, just as a civilian before 9/11, we're like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then all of a sudden, out of the
Yeah.
blue, we have planes flying into buildings.
I
And we're
hope
like,
it's
holy
a
shit, I
long
never even
time.
heard of Afghanistan.
I hope it's a long time before we have to learn a bunch of new place names.
don't
I remember
think it
being a
will
little
be.
kid,
Yeah.
in the 60s and watching TV, and Walter Cronkite, David Brinkley or somebody real important was on TV talking about these weird places like Phnom Penh, and they'd show how it's spelled. And it's like, what the Saigon. A lot of Saigon going on, and Phnom Penh too. And the Highlands. Where are the Highlands? It must be over by the school, I guess. I saw a hill over there. But it was just the weird place names, and then Afghanistan came along, and it was like, how do you say that? And even the people on the news were pronouncing the same
Right.
word differently, and we got good at it. I don't want to get good at another country's place names.
Yeah, I can
Not
dig
anytime
it.
soon, man.
Yeah. But
And
I think that's the world we live in now. It's complicated.
Like I said earlier, we
Yeah.
as a military person, I say prepare for war and pray for peace.
Wow.
And I start with myself. I pray for myself. I pray for my family right off the bat. I try to set the best example I can for myself, do the right thing, show my family what right looks like, and maybe that'll perpetuate in concentric circles away from me.
Best thing you can
And
do
that's
is
the
be
best
a good
thing I can do.
example.
Yeah, that's it.
But for a military service member, I'm prepared to be the tip of the spear for whatever my nation asks of me.
Sure. We appreciate that too.
I appreciate it.
So I never got the
Amen.
option to serve in the military. Got bad vision, and they wouldn't. Yeah, they may have used me as a target, something like that. But yeah, it wouldn't have worked out very well anyway. So before we close out, do you have any closing statements? Is there anything that you'd like maybe other vets to know, or just the citizens to know, or even the administration to know?
Big thing, pray. Part of my YouTube video the other day was directly to the veterans, and again to remind them, hey, look, you served honorably, no matter what the outcome. We are a nation of opportunity, not a nation of outcome.
That's right.
And you can read that any way you want to
Mm-hmm.
in the geopolitical climate we're in. So that being said, veterans, brothers, sisters, take care of yourself. Don't be alone out there in the darkness. Find some light, and know that you serve honorably.
And you've got support.
Pray for your country. Pray for our leaders to make the right decisions.
Exactly.
Right.
No matter what side of the aisle you're on, politically, pray for our leaders.
Yes, sir.
Give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and give unto God what is God's.
Mm-hmm.
So
There
pray.
you go. Wow, I don't think I could have said that any better. So that's pretty good.
I can't add to it.
Mark, you have anything you want to close out with?
No. No. He put it perfectly.
I think so. I think we're going to end it with that.
Pray
too.
for the wisdom of our leaders,
There it is.
no matter
All right.
who they are.
Guys, if you've subscribed to the channel in the past couple of months, hey, appreciate it. We're over 300 now, so we're on our way to 1,000. We'll get there. Got an exciting end of the month and beginning of next month, too. We've got quite a few guys slated for guests, a few that Mark isn't even aware of yet.
Huh?
And, yeah, we got a couple came in last night. But, so you're going to see some cool stuff on here. We got a lot to talk about. And, David Allen, I really appreciate you coming in.
I appreciate you
And,
having me.
Thank you so much. And
appreciate your service to the country. I know that it took up a lot of your time and you missed out on things that you should have missed out on. But you did us justice, man. And the more important thing is that you did those people justice too and gave those females there, like you said, an opportunity to just get a taste of freedom. And, you know, a lot of times that's all that people need is just a taste.
Yep.
And so maybe the Afghan people at one point will pick up arms again and take care of business. And I think they'll be in a better position to do it now than they were 20 years ago.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you, man. It was good having you on. Mark, you did great. Thanks for not getting so upset you started throwing stuff.
well, I almost did. If I get more subscribers, I could throw something.
That's it. And, you know, God bless the United States. And I think he's right. Let's just pray for the country, pray for our leaders, and pray for our people abroad, too, because they need it more now than ever before. And with that, guys, we'll be out.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All